Drop down below in the comments if you want to see Harold Ford Jr. permanently on the 5 and Jessica Tarlov permanently removed, okay? I know a lot of people are saying that Jessica Tarlov is very unhinged, which I definitely agree with that, okay? Whereas Harold Ford Jr., he's right sometimes, okay, throughout the day. Granted, he's out of touch with reality as well, but every once in a while he says a thing or two that makes some sense. At least that's how I see it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Things get pretty crazy on the set of the 5 with Harold Ford Jr. here and his comments regarding everything with Biden, okay? And on top of that, pray for Letitia James. We're going to throw this out there as well. Pray for Letitia James. She didn't get one of Joe Biden's auto pen sign-offs, okay? So it's a whole crazy thing going on with Letitia James right now, and it's just ridiculous that the Dems are still pulling Biden out of the closet and throwing him on in the spotlight and stuff like that to get a couple dollars off of him. And it's just crazy. But anyways, that's their party though. That's to be expected. But we're gonna break this whole thing down. There's a lot to unpack here. Shout out to the King Squad. Smash the like button and hit subscribe. Let's go.
Hello, everyone. I'm arrested after he joined 3 Democratic members of Congress who broke into a New Jersey ICE facility that holds some of the very violent migrant offenders, including an MS-13 gang member. We'll fill you in on that later. But first, the man who destroyed the Democrats. Joe Biden's return to The View was a train wreck for a party that's desperate to move on. At one point, poor Joe was asked about his mental decline and needed Dr. Jill to swoop right in and save him like the Easter Bunny from the ladies of The View.
What is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that. And so we went to work and we got it done. And, you know, one of the things and
Alyssa, you know, one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us. And they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. If you look at this today, give me Joe Biden anytime.
Super yikes.
Well, the left may be ready to move on, but the stench of Biden's failed 4 years
How do you guys feel about that? Do you want Joe Biden any day of the week?
in office still lingers in the air? But some say enough is enough. The Obama pod bros are going nuclear on Sleepy Joe.
He shouldn't have run for a second term. And when he did run for a second term, he should have stepped down much earlier after the debate. And his close advisors shouldn't have told him to run again, and they shouldn't have told him he was going to win.
This media tour is about Joe Biden. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about Joe Biden defending himself and his legacy. He's made it about himself.
Yeah.
And that, I think, was something
which he made the last year of his presidency about.
It's not something you're going to solve on The View. And so it's like, step back. If you really truly believe that the work you did was good, then you have to trust history to judge it correctly.
So, Greg, the Bidens go on The View to basically gaslight and say everything was fine still, even though we watched and know it wasn't.
But, you know, these guys are talking about 2024. The mistake was 2020. The biggest mistake the Dems ever made was run that guy, picking him and letting himself expose the shallow and useless nature of their party. He will go down as the worst president in history, no question. The party was already a mess, but they picked the worst possible person to front it. It's like Mattel making Casey Anthony their CEO, a disaster. And I think we're letting the media off too lightly. Right now, they're saying, and you can hear it with those guys, hey, it was the White House who kept us from knowing Joe was a mess, as if journalists were under house arrest. You know, it's like the mission of their job, which is actually to report. They can't do that anymore. They only tell the story, but they wouldn't let us. So instead, and they have $1 billion company behind them. They have all the tools needed to tell a story. But you know what? The White House would be upset with them if they did it. So they didn't. And that's on the White House's fault. No, you're a journalist. You're supposed to report things, not just tell stories based on your assumptions. It used to be if you told a reporter that you can't report on something, that would energize them to report on it. But now they've been reduced to stenographers. They don't chase a story. They tell a story, or they repurpose it from another story. This is actually the biggest political story of a generation, but they avoided it because they didn't want to feel ashamed about it. And I get how they want to move on. Who wouldn't? When a criminal is arrested, he'd love everyone to move on. But the criminal doesn't get to decide when you move on. We do. And again, this cover-up merits the kind of scrutiny that should have been there in the first place if the party had simply done the work at the start, paid attention to the voters and not to the activists, stopped indulging the false promise of identity politics and actually looked outward at the world. They wouldn't be in this problem. They're still in this problem.
So, Joey, I remember the Democrats doing everything they could to not have a primary process. They were keeping candidates off the ballot, using lawfare to go against RFK Jr. So the Obama aides trying to argue that it was just all Joe Biden and not the Democratic Party and the DNC doing this seems a little bit of a rewrite of history.
Yeah, that's what's so funny about them getting upset at David Hogg for running primary. It's like you've always had your thumb on the scale. That's your problem. That's why you don't have a deep bench, because you've gotten in between anyone who could. I mean, could you imagine someone taking the Democrat Party by storm the way Trump took the Republican Party by storm in 2016? The way it exists now, it probably couldn't happen. And most Republicans would sit there and say that's the best thing that ever happened to the party. It was the only thing that could have saved it from the Bush years and the fizzle out of the Tea Party. But as far as Biden coming back out there, I mean, I wonder if Trump sent him a gift basket or, because this is the best thing that could happen. There are a lot of headlines right now. Pakistan and India, there's Ukraine and Russia. There are a lot of things that Democrats could pretend to be upset about and say that President Trump isn't doing well. But instead, their podcast and their biggest television show are talking about Biden again.
Harold, I know that you have been a proponent of moving on from the Bidens for a long time. They were back this week. Your thoughts on them getting back on the national stage and telling this story this way?
It's good to be back around the table. I think you said it well. He lost the race. I think one of the reasons he's probably out these days is because Biden, that is, because the books are coming out and he wants to show that he was not out of it. He said when he ran in 2020, Greg, that he would be a transitional figure. Then he wanted to beat Donald Trump and move the country to a new generation of leadership. And I think a lot of people took him at his word, and that didn't happen. I think Democrats now, I wouldn't respond to him at all. I think that those guys out there with the podcast, they seem like they got a good thing going. I'd be talking about issues. I mean, what are the priorities of the Democratic Party? We're about to engage in a real debate around taxes. Who do we want to cut taxes for? How are we going to stimulate Main Street business growth? Who do we want to raise taxes on if we have to raise taxes to pay for these things? President Trump has talked about the need and perhaps the reasons behind taxing people who are earning multiples of millions of dollars a year to help pay down the debt and do the things we have to do to provide no taxes on tips and no taxes on overtime. Those are the things that would be most useful to talk about if you're a Democrat. And if President Biden wants to continue to go on shows to help himself, I think one of the guys there at the end said this is all about Biden and not about anything else. Let him do that. That'll run its course. Let us go forward with a set of ideas and what our priorities are, laying it out for the country.
So, Rosanna,
Yeah, I think right there that, they're trying to sit here and just act like, oh, well, okay, well, all right, we know Biden's messed up, okay? So let's just, all right, Joe Biden, she's trying to get her last 5 seconds of fame and throw Biden up in the spotlight. And then the Dems are like, all right, well, who wants a visit from Biden today? And, you kind of just got to accept it. And we're over here like, oh, my gosh, the nightmares, they're coming back. It's Biden. It's Biden, like a ghost or something. And, it's like, oh, my gosh. And then you have Biden here sitting here just like, hey, Jill, can you speak for me? My brain is shutting down. And he falls to sleep. I mean, it's just, there's just no more covering for Biden's cognitive decline. At least that's how I see it. Let me know what you guys think. And I think Harold Ford Jr. is trying to really, get away from that and really disassociate from that as well, because he knows it looks bad. Okay. And the Dems are extremely directionless. So it's like, okay, well, digging Biden out of the grave and just throwing him in the spotlight doesn't make the Dems look any better right now. And so they're like, okay, well, let's talk about some stuff that's actually relevant, and let's kind of just forget that we ever let that happen. That's really how it strikes me. And they're not going to say that, but we see it, okay? I know the King Squad sees it. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. We see it, okay? They're not fooling us. And yeah, but let me know what you guys think down below in the comments.
The Bidens are not the only problem brewing inside the Democratic Party. You also have a number of people on the far left, and you have James Carville, who sees himself as more of a centrist, telling them that they need to get out. Let's take a listen.
God These people are just helpless. They cannot be helped. There's nothing you can do to help them. They don't want to be helped. And if they had any guts, they'd start their own political party and get out of ours. I'm sorry.
So he's specifically referring to people like Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's been campaigning with Bernie Sanders, may run for president. So they've got some big issues to work out.
They're still digesting the election. They still can't believe that the American public went in there at a time when their eggs were too high, their gas was too high, and they were watching their neighborhoods change with the influx of migrants. And so they don't know how to react to that. But the Bidens now, they're just trying to save their legacy. They're trying to get out in front of all these books that are going to drop in the next 2 weeks. Jake Tapper is defending his book, which I think is going to be pretty explosive. He said he spoke to 200 people who had a lot to say in the White House. They're all Democrats. They're all Biden lovers. But that's not enough for Jill Biden. She thinks that you have to be in, I guess, her bedroom watching Joe work so hard while she read a book.
Well, I think it's funny that the arsonists now, Joey, are the ones who are coming to save the day on this, saying, look at all these things that were happening that we never wanted to talk about until we could make money on books.
Yeah, and all the people that are saying that now were the ones who were gaslighting us.
Yeah.
That were telling us what we were seeing was not what we were really seeing.
Yeah,
kind of the same thing with the riots, mostly peaceful. Joe Biden was mostly sentient.
Not only that, he was running circles around his staff.
Yes.
So we'll see if
he should hire
stay on the stage.
Karine Jean-Pierre to go out and be a spokesperson.
I think she's done with him as well. So they're having a rough time keeping some friends.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
So, yeah, okay, there we have it. One of the number one things that I saw with Harold is the fact that he would not, he's really trying to just dodge that whole everything with Biden right now, okay? And then just put it back on Trump, all right? And it's kind of funny. It's just funny to watch. With Biden, I think the Dems know that they're like everybody on the 5 said, really, they said that the books are coming out regarding Biden. Okay. And so the Dems, no hiding it. They tried hiding it, but now that, Biden's out of the spotlight for the most part, they tucked him away, hit him, and then they brought him back. And then it's like, okay, well, let's just put a cherry on top of this mess and on top of this crap and call it a milkshake. And that's that. Where we lived through the Biden-Harris administration, and the toughest decision Biden had to make was whether he wanted chocolate or vanilla ice cream. Okay. Like, it was like he took the truck USA and just drove it right off a cliff. Okay. That's really what it was like living under the Biden-Harris administration and the plague of the Biden-Harris administration. And, the Dems are trying to not really, be tied to that. They're trying to bring Biden out like Barney and have him smile and wave to everybody and say, look, he's okay. And he's like crashing out and malfunctioning right in front of you. And we're sitting here like, he's not looking any better. And then Jill Biden's, she's talking for him. Then she's working his mouth like a puppet. And it's just a mess. I mean, at least that's how it looks to me. It's just very much, it's hard to watch. It's very cringeworthy and it's painful. And, just seeing Biden after all the terrible decisions he's made with the country is like, yikes. Can we just stop seeing this guy, please? But that's my thoughts on it, guys. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Harold Ford Jr., I thought he was the only sane Democrat left. I was wrong. So there's that. He wants to attack Trump's policies and nitpick the process as well. He just does it a tad bit more calmly, in my opinion. And that's that. Shout out to Gutfeld for, just being transparent and telling it like it is as usual. And that's that. Shout out to the King Squad. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. Let me know what you guys think down below. I always look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.